You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Welcome back, everyone, to Cards to the Moon. And believe it or not, we are recording episode number 20. My name is Clark, and with me from the beginning, sharing co-hosting duties, is Hyung and John. Any quick thoughts from you guys on getting this far with episode 20? Did you think we would even make it this far?
You know what? It's crazy. It's like when you talk about sports cards, it's just, time flies, and there's never not enough content, So it's always good to have these conversations, because ultimately our goal is to bring value, to anybody that's, new, or, maybe we discuss things that, we go in depth, right? So, I'm happy to be a part of it, and thanks for having us.
For sure, 100%.
Yeah, it's been a great ride so far. I'll share Hyung's sentiments. I can't believe how quickly that went by. It still feels like we just started doing this. So it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah. So we'll just keep going week after week, and next thing you know, we'll be on our 100th episode, right? But one episode at a time.
Keep grinding.
All right, cool. So I thought off the top today, we can make some picks on who is going to win the Stanley Cup with the NHL season starting this week, and the Larry O'Brien Trophy with the NBA regular season beginning next week as of this recording. So I thought it would be timely. And before we get into our picks, the second part of this question is, which player from both hockey and basketball do you think will step it up big time this season? Or which player are you looking forward to seeing make that big leap? Maybe it's a rebound season for that player. But yeah, let's start off with our picks for who's going to win. Let's start with hockey, Stanley Cup.
For me, I gotta, stick with my Leafs. It's been a long ride, and I believe they have the team to do it, and and you know what? On top of that, Mitch Marner is my boy. I believe that he's a guy Mitch, that a couple more years like he's playing, and he's gonna get better, and I think his prices are affordable still. So I think he's a great buy too. So I'm rooting for the Leafs. I think I like their shot. I think it's the best we've put forward in in years. So I'm gonna go with the Leafs, man.
Nice.
You know what? To be fair, some odd makers are putting the Leafs up in the top 5. So
they're
crazy.
up there. I mean, they're up there.
Yeah. How about you, John?
I'm going with Colorado Avalanche. I think they made a lot of they made a lot of improvements. They're just stacked top to bottom, like Kadri, McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen. The 4 big guys are there, but they're young. Mm-hmm. They have Tyson Jones, who's a former first-round pick, who's finally coming into his own mold. They got a new kid named Adam Newhook, who just made the team, who lit it up last year in NCAA. And then on defense, they got Cale Makar, former first-round pick Bowen Byram, and then they just added Darcy Kemper, who's in my opinion, I think he's a very good goaltender, and they've always been kind of shaky in the goaltending department. So, I mean, they're stacked top to bottom. They've got depth, they've got skill, they've got goaltending, they got defense. So, I have to assume they're one of the heavy favorites. Yeah,
I was going to say Avs are number 1 on most everyone's list. So, not a surprise that one of us would choose the Avs. I just think the Avs are a solid regular season team. And then the playoffs, I don't know. Weird things happen.
Right, right. Well, my East, they're my West pick, but my East pick is the New York Rangers.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they have a similar makeup. They're a little underrated because they haven't really played well in the past. They're very, very similar makeup, and I like the Rangers as well.
Okay. My pick is Lightning. I'm going with the Lightning to go back to back. Is it to back?
Back to back.
Back to back to back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Three
dynasty. Yeah. I think the Lightning is the next dynasty in hockey. And they have the same core. Kucherov's healthy, right?
Yeah.
So they're ready to go. And experience is a big factor I think when it comes to hockey and when they make it to the playoffs, they just kind of, you just see the teams with experience just kind of have that extra factor to push them over the edge. So Lightning is my choice. So we'll see. We'll come back to this episode 20 when the Stanley Cup finals are playing in several months, and then we'll see who's right or who's dead wrong. I think I don't know, Hyung. I think you're in the running for the dead wrong.
Let's go. They're up. Leafs are up 3-2. I think last I checked.
Yeah,
it's a good start.
Nice.
Yeah,
good start.
So
nice.
we're on the right track. So,
amen. I hope the Leafs win the cup. It will be a wild party here in Toronto.
I hope so too.
All right, let's go on to basketball then. What are your picks for who's going to win the Larry O.B.?
Oh man, this one's tough. I would say I'm gonna say Golden State. I'm actually gonna go with Golden State.
Nice.
I really like what they have, but I'm gonna also throw in. I can't disrespect Hero in Miami. I think they're gonna have a big year. I truly do. So you always see him in the playoffs, right? So and playoff basketball is different. So I'm gonna go Golden State though. Definitely.
Okay, good choice.
Nice. I got out of the West. I really like Denver. I think it's their year to make a big time noise and head to the finals. And then the East, I'm in agreement with Young Man. I actually picked Miami as well. They added PJ Tucker, Oladipo, Kyle Lowry, and people sleeping on Hero again. I think Hero's gonna turn it around this season, and I don't know. I see Miami being really, really dangerous. So I like Denver and Miami in the finals. I'm gonna pick Miami to win it.
Okay. It's funny you guys talked about Hero, and I think I forgot to ask the second part of the question for the hockey, but we'll start with basketball on who we think is going to really step it up this season. I think, well, my player was Hero, actually.
We took some.
I don't know if it's going to be a sweep on that question, but did you hear what Tyler Hero said recently about?
Yeah, that was a tough one. That stuff like that really it bugs you, you know.
Yeah, hot take, man.
I get the confidence. I get the confidence.
Confidence, yeah.
But you know, you gotta play. You gotta shut up and play. You know.
Yeah, you can't say those things before you haven't done anything yet.
For those who don't know, he compared himself to Luka, Trey, and Ja Morant, that level of player.
Yeah, saying he should be in that conversation of rising.
Right. You know what? Right. There are a lot of Tyler Hero haters. I'll tell you that. There are people that they're gonna totally disagree, you know, with us. But I think he kind of has like you said, the makeup to do it. He just needs to do it now. This is a big, for me, this is his make or break year. You know, he has to be dropping 20 plus a game. And you know what? He's been doing that. I think he's made a bold statement. He looks different. You see that picture that was floating around where he looked like he put 15, 20 pounds. He was just absolutely shredded. Right. Yeah. So that's the direction you'd like to see. You know, he's becoming a dad too. So he's all around, I think, this is his year, and Miami's, hopefully we see him in the finals, right?
Yeah. Yep. Well, it better be his year after a statement like that.
Well, before I choose my pick, John, who is your player for the NBA?
You know what? I want Luka to go to the next level, and it's, you know, selfishly, a lot of people are invested in Luka, and you want your card to go up, but.
Sure.
The main reason though is I really want to see Luka's card explode, and that we talked about it last week, but that narrative of the 17K Prism Pop Report being too high of a number, I want that narrative to disappear. I want the card market and everyone to be proven that number is still not big enough for somebody like Luka, and I want him to do well enough to see that ceiling get crushed. So for that reason, I would love to see Luka go to a different level this year. Okay. Either winning MVP or, you know, Dallas going to the finals or something crazy, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so my pick for the NBA championship, I got to stick with the Lakers, man. I know they're injured.
Boo!
Come on, man. They're they got to be the heavy favorites. I was gonna choose the Nets, but I don't know what Kyrie's doing, so
No,
I gotta.
yeah.
He's suspended. I think he's like he can't
sitting
he
out,
can't-
right?
Yeah, he can't play. He can't participate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's crazy.
I could see Kyrie sitting out for the whole season. He's that kind of player
Yeah.
where he just kind of
Yeah.
digs in, right? So
They're gonna have to fill that role. Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
that's gonna be a huge hole for the Nets. But yeah, that's why I'm going with the Lakers. I know, like I said, they're injured, but if they start getting healthy even throughout the season, and they just have to make it into a playoffs, and then once they're in, they're gonna be. I don't think any team's going to want to play the Lakers in the playoffs, right? So Lakers for me. And I guess the only other question is for NHL. Let's go back to the NHL. Which player do you think really make that next step or can really rebound this season?
For me, I actually picked somebody that like I not necessarily rebound. I believe hockey is really heating up in terms of even pricing, price movement, a lot more people involved. Like this is what we talked about earlier, right? Like they're trying to get it on that scale, and you kind of see the effect, right? So and you see there's not much options for hockey cards compared to like baseball, right? So you look back, and I think there's players like Mitch Marner, like we talked about, that have some amazing like rookie autos that are like very, very affordable, and there are huge opportunities there, for instance. And I think even his young guns is very affordable. I think it was something like floating under 500 in the summer, during the dip, but then it's probably reached an all-time high, over 700 now, right? So I think it's still relatively cheap for a young guns rookie card comparatively, when you look at other comps. So I think for me, it's Mitch Marner. I think there's some opportunity there for sure.
Great pick. I agree.
Nice. I'm gonna go with a kid in Ottawa, Tim Stützle. I think he's an absolute stud. He was a a year ago. He was a third overall pick, and he really flew under this kid is a legitimate stud, and he flew under the radar last year because everyone was going after the young guns, Lafreniere, Laffy. And then towards the end of the year, everybody started to go after the Kaprizov because he's the one who ended up winning the Rookie of the Year. And Stützle completely fell under the radar. And you can pick up his... I don't even think there are... I could be wrong, but I'm not sure if there are any PSA 10s graded. But his card is really affordable, man. Like I think his SGC 10 goes for about $100. So he scored 29 points in 53 games last year. He's a little kid, and he's only 19 years old. And I think this year he's going to step it up. So I really like, as a player and as an investment, I like Tim Stützle.
Okay, I like that pick too. I'm going with Vladimir Tarasenko.
Oh, nice.
I think people have been he's been injured the last two seasons, so people might have forgotten about him a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I know there's been a little bit of drama with Tarasenko and the Blues, whether he would come back or whether he wanted to get traded. But it looks like he's back. Looks like the team is on board with Tarasenko. So
he's a stud.
He's a stud. If he's healthy like he says he is, 30 goals plus is easy for him. And the Blues will be a good team. So yeah, Tarasenko. If you forgot about him, he's back. I think he'll do
good one.
He'll have a really great season.
Good one. I like it.
Okay, cool. That was fun. We'll see. We'll cycle back to all our picks. See if we're bang on or really far off with our choices. But yeah, we'll see. All right. So let's move on then for today's hobby headlines. So I thought we could highlight in this episode some of the apps and websites that we use to help us find good sports card deals or pricing trends or any information really that is useful to know when buying or selling cards. We know that the hobby and tech kind of go hand in hand now, and we use all these tools to our disposal to make the best choices. So I thought we could make this episode real practical for our listeners, especially for the ones that are just coming into the hobby. So I can start things off, and I'm going to group all those apps and websites which basically do the same thing, which is consolidate a lot of the sports card sales data. And it's primarily from eBay, but other sources as well. And with that data, they can project trends on which card is hot or cold just based on the sales numbers. So a lot of collectors might have heard a couple of the big ones already, like Card Ladder.
Right.
If you go to cardladder.com, or Market Movers, which is by Sports Card Investor. I think they both do a great job of tracking card sales and displaying it in a user-friendly manner, including in charts and in tables, depending on what data you want to see.
Right.
And I know there are like several other companies as well trying to gain their market share in this space. Like Card Hedger is one of them. They reached out to me
nice.
last year. And so yeah, there's everyone's trying to get into the space, right? This hobby is growing so fast that even tech companies are trying to get their share. So and I don't know if you guys know, but I think eBay is trying to do something similar in-house too.
Right.
And
that's right.
And where you can track the cards that you actually buy, and you can see how they're doing in terms of value or resale value.
Right.
So it's kind of like the stock market based on the eBay cards that you buy. It's already in their system, right? So it's something they're trying. I think they're still trying to build it out. It's not completely there yet, but eBay is trying to get into the game as well.
Right.
Anyway, I've used all of them, and the one issue I would say is that they constantly need to update their database because there are so many cards out there, right? And the more established ones like Card Ladder and Market Movers seem to be doing just that, making their tools a bit more robust than all the other ones. But yeah, like at the beginning when I started using these tools early on, it wasn't that great because you're like looking for like certain specific cards and it's not even in their database yet,
right?
And it's not tracking any sales, so it's pretty useless, right? But I think as they just continue to like enter all this data and aggregate all this data, it just becomes a very useful tool.
Right.
So yeah, full disclosure though, I just want to say we just got into a partnership with Sports Card Investor where we can offer 20% off for their Market Movers app or program for the first month. And you just need to use the coupon code 5CardGuys when you sign up. But honestly, I like both. Card Ladder and Market Mover, they're pretty similar in what they do. And I find them equally useful. So those are my suggestions. Have you guys used any of these apps before? Or
For sure, yeah. I think they're, like, for me, I guess I would say I'm a little old school, so I don't, like, I tried those apps and, they helped me earlier on when you're trying to figure out what you're trying to do. But for me, I kind of moved away from apps personally. But I love, like I say, I'm all for it because what it's doing is it's establishing kind of like the future industry or, and creating that new experience that is beneficial to this hobby, right? So I'm all for it, even though I'm old school. All I need is my 130 point, my eBay, and my black market websites like Blowout forums and my
black
Facebook
market.
forums. Yeah, it's the streets. You're going out on the streets, beware.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned 130 point. Do you want to talk about that for people who don't know what 130 point is?
Sure. 130 point is I guess a third-party site that can track eBay sales, and usually it tracks all the sales, including best offers. So it'll show the true price. So if you go on eBay and you search a card and you go to the sold or complete listed, it will basically have a scratched out price, but you can't really see what the item sold for. So 130 point will be your kind of website for true comps, essentially, right? So
yeah, it's very useful. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. I was gonna talk a little bit about actually Blowout forums, because I think this is more of the old school approach of, instead of apps, it's the resource, the knowledge. And the reason why I like Blowout forums, if you go into like hobby talks, they're categorized by individual sports, so baseball, basketball, football, soccer, like all these other sports, right? And they have player threads, right, that were started years and years ago. These are from the true hobbyists. So like for instance, Ronald Acuna Jr., like his page, I guess, has like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of just information on what cards is the chase card, what card is what people are after, and just a general discussion of kind of like with thousands of members, right? So and it's also good to follow those threads and always kind of be in the know, right? So in conjunction with like those other apps, I think it's very, very valuable. And I call it the black market because it's like that's where the OG was. It's just that was the only market, right? Back in the day. So I would say definitely players in the hobby talk forums on Blowout.
I like it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Forums can be easily overlooked, especially with apps coming out all the time. But
for sure,
I like it.
I've never had the opportunity to use Market Movers, but I know a lot of people who have used it and who have enjoyed it. And they like how you can kind of get into deep analysis of like comparing trends of different cards and stuff. A cheaper way we talked about card ladder app. I think there's also a subscription portion where you can see trends of up to like 6, 12 and couple of years, but they give you the free data for at least the first couple of months. And that's a really good free tool for anybody who's out there that wants to quickly, they don't have all the names in their database, but if you wanted to quickly look at Mike Trout update,
the big ones.
Pop,
the big ones.
or PSA 10, how much they sold for, they kind of give you some basic information. So that's a good app. And then I think a must download app is definitely the PSA certification.
Okay.
It's very useful because it has the QR code, so you can instantly sort of scan the barcode that's on the PSA slab. So that's really useful for when you're doing deals like on Kijiji and meeting up with a guy. You want to do a quick scan of the card that he has to make sure it's legit. Or you're at card shows and you want to do a quick scan of a card, and then not only does the card information come up, but it'll show like pop report. All of that stuff is sort of in the page that pops up from the QR code. So it's just a real quick way of seeing. And some of the bigger names within the PSA certification, like if you look up, I don't know, Luka Doncic Optic, it'll actually have a link to the actual pop report, and it'll have a link to the auction prices realized page. So the page where PSA tracks all of their slabs that are being sold either on eBay or Golden Auctions or PWCC or whatnot. So it's a really good quick tool to also see what past solds are. And then the final thing is that, and not many people may know this, but when you do the PSA certification app, it shows you what label the current card is under. So if you have an old label, it'll show on the top of the description that this card has this old label or this card has the new label. So at least for some of the really big cards, you'll know in case somebody tried to duplicate it with like the newer label or the older label, you'll know, you can kind of catch it right away. You can catch a fake right away. So that's another little neat add-on that they had to that app.
That's pretty cool. I mean, is the PSA certification app done by PSA or is it third party?
Yeah, it's done by PSA. It's their own app.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, that's a good one. I actually didn't know about it.
I think even to take that a step further, just in general, I think using PSA pop reports too. Talk about PSA pop reports because it's the same thing that Johnny's talking about. Just if you're ever researching a card or trying to find the population of a card, there's actually a PSA. If you even Google like PSA pop report, it'll be like the first hit that comes out. Or you could Google PSA certification, where you put the kind of like the number in for a quick check, and all that information comes out, right? But I find it like especially for new hobbyists or incoming investors, what happens is when they try searching in like the pop report, they don't understand that the way it works in terms of set name. Like, if they have to search like 2019 Topps Chrome Sapphire, right? And then it's broken down to sports, right? So a lot of, I think, newcomers, when they try to find a set, they don't even know. They just know that this card is the right card to get. They don't understand what set it comes from, or stuff like that, where a hobbyist looks at, right? So I find it a little difficult if you're new, but I think a quick fix to that is if you want direct access, and it's good if you use kind of like that PSA pop report instead of certification, because you could kind of see all the grades. You know what I mean? You could see all the grades instead of if you use the PSA certification number, you just see kind of like what John said. The same thing if you scan it with the QR code, right? So I think it's a very good, and BGS has the same thing. You just need a membership, I guess, with BGS to access the pop report, which I think is kind of stupid, to be honest.
Yeah.
You can, now that I think about it,
you can actually search BGS listings on Card Ladder app, and they'll show you the population. So
they will.
So that's a little trick around that. You just use the Card Ladder app, and you can see
that
it.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even their system is terrible. Like just trying to find it. You're just looking through it. They list every single one. It's just I just want the amount of cards that are in the pop, right? So, but yeah, I always look. That's a definite tool. Like you need both. You always need to be checking population counts and making sure that you go with the low pop cards, at least for me, right? So.
And I agree with you. The websites actually for both PSA Pop Report and the BGS Pop, they're both bad. Like it takes forever to load.
Yeah, so it's forever to load on your phone. Oh my goodness.
Well, PSA finally made pages, thank goodness. So that kind of helps. But before you'd have to wait like 10 minutes for the entirety of the Pop Report to load up.
Yeah, especially 2019 Panini Prism, Zion Williamson. Wait, we're still grading 17,000 more.
Yeah, we didn't say there wasn't any room for improvement in the hobby, so that's one major area.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we mentioned a lot of different apps and websites that I hope new collectors especially find useful. I think one that we didn't mention was Alt. I know there was some controversy of Alt when they came out, especially if you follow Card Porn on Instagram, that they were taking a lot more data than they should have, and then Alt as a company said it was an honest mistake and they corrected it.
Right.
But what Alt does is essentially what we're talking about with 130 point. You get to see what the actual sale dollar number was for the ones that were bought with the best offer price. Right. And instead of going on a separate site like 130 point, the Alt I think is a Chrome extension.
Right.
So it'll show you the amount right on the eBay site itself. So it's a little bit more convenient. But yeah, if you're concerned about data privacy, you don't trust any of those extensions, then 130 points is probably the safer bet to go. But Alt, the Chrome extension, is also available right now.
Yep.
Anything else or?
No, yeah, that's it. Going back to the PSA report though, I think if you're into stats and you're into sort of analytics and looking at those numbers, the pop report is even just searching pop reports and you're just looking at the entirety of those lists, you can uncover a lot of interesting data. And I think that's how a lot of purchases can also kind of come out of. Like if you're, let's say, looking at, I'll use Hyung as an example. You're looking at Luka Optic 2018 and you're looking at the pop report and it's going to show base at 4,000 PSAs, like PSA 10s and 8,000 submitted total or whatever. And you start looking at the gem rates and you're going down the list. You're looking at, I don't know, orange prism, orange optic hollow, orange, red, or whatever. You keep going. And all of a sudden you get to shock and you see 700 submitted and 30 PSA 10s, right? And you just look at that.
It's like 8%.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and you look at that statistic and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, why is this card is so incredibly tough to grade? And people just think, oh, it's shock. It's a crappy color. It's a really easy parallel to get. But you don't realize until you look at the pop reports, wait a minute, this is actually a very rare card. So
and that's a good point, John, because I remember we talked about this as Luka bases were still dropping in price.
Right.
Luka Optic Shocks, I remember I listed it thinking that no one would buy it for like 1,400, like a buy it now. So I just listed it, and somebody bought it. And then it kept on going up to like 1,900 or whatever it is at now. But that's what happens when you're protected by low pop. Right, it becomes a supply demand game. That's all it is. Right. Yeah. It's 100% supply demand. Right. So it's like that's how you always protect it. Right. But good point on that. Like you could compare the gem rates, and that will essentially bring, I think, a lot of long-term value. In a card. Maybe it doesn't sell as well because it's not as liquid right now. But I think over the long run, those cards are great long-term holds as well.
Right.
Yeah. Agreed. So yeah, we'll put all the websites that we talked about in the apps in the show notes, wherever you listen to your podcast, so you guys have access to that easily. But yeah, definitely go check them out. All right. With that, let's move on then to our next segment, and it's a timely one. We're calling it Draft Day Picks. So as we said off the top, the NBA and NHL regular seasons are underway this month, and that means so are fantasy leagues. So what I did was take the top 10 fantasy player rankings for both the NHL and NBA, which I'll read out in a sec. And to make this hobby relevant, I wanted to ask you guys, which one or two of the top players that I'm about to read do you think has the most room to grow in value over the season? So I'm talking essentially short-term plays here. All right, so let's start with hockey. And I got this top 10 list from NHL.com. And I'll read them from rank number 1 to 10. Okay? So, number 1, not surprisingly, is Connor McDavid. Number 2, Leon Draisaitl, his teammate. Number 3, Nathan McKinnon of the Avalanche. Ranked number 4, Nikita Kucherov of the Lightning. Number 5, our homeboy, Austin Matthews from the Leafs. Number 6, the only goalie in the top 10, Andrei Vasilevsky from the Lightning. Number 7, Artemi Panarin of the New York Rangers. 8, Brad Marchand. Number 9, Mikko Rantanen of Colorado. And 10, also from Boston, David Pastrnak. All right, so out of those 10, which one or two players do you think will grow the most in value? Like, which one would you target as a hobbyist? Because I wanted to go with the top 10 list because we know these guys are studs, right? These guys are good players. So which one do you think has the most value to grow, even though they are in this top 10 list?
I'm going to go with Mikko Rantanen because I believe, I think his prices are cheap based on kind of like what he's establishing himself as to be, and being like, on Colorado as well, right? Like it's going to be interesting to see that, influx of hockey. And I think this is where a lot of card prices catch up, right? So I'm going to go, I think his Young Guns is floating in around $300, which is very, very affordable. So yeah, I'm going to go Mikko.
Nice. I got a couple, and these are really easy for me. Artemi Panarin. He has been really under the radar, and it really sucks because, unless your name is Ovechkin, Russians generally don't get too much love in the hobby. But this guy is, whether people realize it or not, this guy is an absolute superstar. He came over from the Russian KHL. He's got one of the highest point per game averages in the entire league. Like if you look at 3 years ago off of Columbus Blue Jackets, 87 points in 79 games. Moved to the Rangers, 95 points in 69 games. They got knocked out in the first round of playoffs, and then last year he had 58 points in 42 games. People have been sleeping on him because they haven't really watched him. He hasn't played. He's been injured a bit. Rangers haven't really made any noise in the playoffs. I think he's an absolute superstar, and his Young Guns goes for around 250, 300. So I really think that it has a great chance of going to like the $500-$600 mark this season, if not more. So I really like Panarin. And then the other one, I mean, it has to be McDavid. I know he's expensive. I know he's triple the price of anybody in the league. Yeah. But hockey is it's not on the radar of most collectors, right? Like when you look at this top 10 list and you ask an average collector, no one's collecting Brad Marchand. You're barely collecting David Pastrnak. Everyone and their moms in the collecting world, if they look at hockey, they're going to go after Connor McDavid. Like this guy is, if you don't know hockey, he's a generational talent. We're watching a young LeBron James, right? So he's transcendent amongst sports cards. Like just like if I don't collect tennis, but I'll buy a Serena Williams. I don't collect golf, but I'll buy a Tiger Woods. I don't, some people can say, I don't buy hockey, but I'll buy a McDavid, right? So because of that reason, even though he is expensive, his collectability, because of his status and who he is as a player, it's just going to keep getting higher and higher.
And to further that point, John, you didn't see much of a dip of his Young Guns PSA 10, because you're saying, I want it to get down to 2,000.
Yeah.
It never really reached
Never.
that. It just floated around that 3K mark, and now it's like shooting back up, right? So I think in terms of an investment, that was the perfect time. It was probably the off season. He was hurt. Everything could have been the wrong way, and it still was protected in terms of the price, right? So yeah, I think it's a safe investment. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, John, you 100% convinced me to look for a McDavid card now.
It's impossible though, man. It's like you gotta pay. You gotta pay the price,
I know.
and that's where it's
That's
tough,
the tough
right?
part.
But I totally agree with you. Like, the potential X factor in all of this is ESPN has taken over the NHL licensing or broadcasting and licensing rights.
Right.
So who knows what they're going to do with the game of hockey in the States, especially.
For sure.
But already, like, they've been putting a lot more dollars than the previous. I can't even remember who.
I think it was NBC. Yeah, NBC.
NBC, right? Yeah.
Honestly, though, I feel like even the whole ripping aspect, I think it's like hobbyists just want to rip. You could do whatever sport or whatever game. You could even call it a game and just put like a hit, and people would be pumped. Like, seriously, people rip like UFC, and they don't even watch UFC, and they're just trying to find the hit. And that's all you're trying to do. And that's all we do, like F1. Everybody knows, like Lewis Hamilton, they're just trying to, find that hit, right? So I think as you said, as more people get exposed to it, it becomes more of a, okay, is hockey available to rip? Let's go. Like, here we go. Who's the hit? It becomes a chase, right? And I'm hoping that's what happens, I guess, from the standpoint that ESPN broadcasts it, and it does reach a bigger audience, and and then once it gets into the hobby, you know how rippers are, they're animals. It's over, game over.
No, yeah, totally agree. But yeah, no, like, I'm super optimistic about hockey, and it's fun to be optimistic about hockey cards again, especially us being Canadian, right?
Yeah.
And like what ESPN doing, like, I'm pretty impressed. Like, they have a podcast, actually they're launching to go with the NHL broadcast. Their streaming is top notch in the industry, so a lot more people are going to be able to watch the games, not just on TV but on the internet. Right. So like you were mentioning, Hyung, the exposure is going to be huge for hockey, and that should easily translate into the hobby. But within that context, I see how McDavid can suddenly blow up with so many more people coming in, and they've quickly realized McDavid is the number one player in the league. The collectability will there, so I agree 100%. My choice was actually Artemi Panarin. I don't have to say much because John made all my points. I was gonna say his Young Guns is $250-$300 right now. He plays for the Rangers, a big market team. That's
I didn't mention that.
An added bonus.
Good point.
Okay, right. So and Panarin could easily do 40 points or 40 goals, 100-point season in a full season.
For 100%. Yeah.
Right. So, and he hasn't done it yet, but he's come close a couple seasons, and still a young guy. If you look at his picture, he looks like a 15-year-old kid, but he's the real deal. Panarin's the real deal. So yeah, that's a quick added note from me for this NHL segment. So we'll move on then to the NBA top 10 fantasy player ranking, and I'll again go from rank 1 to rank 10. And I got this ranking from DraftKings. All right. So number 1, Nikola Jokic. Number 2, Giannis. Number 3, Steph Curry. Number 4, Luka Doncic. Number 5, Damian Lillard. Number 6, James Harden. Number 7, Kevin Durant. Number 8, Bradley Beal. Number 9, LeBron James. And number 10 is Paul George. No love for Trey. He was number 12, I think, on the list. But from those 10, who do you think can improve the most in terms of value in the hobby?
This is tough because basketball is the most expensive, right? And these are the A stocks, man. These are the the big boys, and I think everybody is pretty much unaffordable at this point. But I think there's guys like Bradley Beal who kind of like are still cheap relatively
Sure.
to the rest of these players, because his maybe expectations were a little later, where he kind of blew up the last 2-3 years, I'd say, as like a real superstar, right? So I would say either Dame or Bradley Beal has to be a good opportunity in terms of just based on where basketball prices are with other players and what they're kind of I guess expanding in their careers as they play and continue to get their awards, right? So that would be my pick. Yeah.
Nice
choices. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Kevin Durant. I think it's pretty simple for me. Like I mentioned before, I'm not a huge fan of Kevin Durant, the person. But for me, there's no question. I think he's going to go down as a top 10 all-time NBA player. A lot of people, and you'd be stupid not to admit this, but when you witness who Kevin Durant is and how he plays, we've almost never seen a player like this, where a guy just completely dominates the ball, and he's pretty much unstoppable. It's only himself that stops him, right? So his card, his Topps Chrome, I think I mentioned it a couple of podcasts ago. I don't know if it's still the same price. I haven't checked, but it was on my baller watch list at 5K. I think it was going for around 4K for the Topps Chrome PSA 10. I know that's expensive, and I know, like, talking about the Connor McDavids, it's a bit out of the price range for some people, but we're talking a top 10 all-time NBA talent. We don't know what's happening this year with maybe Kyrie not playing. I think Durant's going to put up monster numbers. If Nets happen to win and he wins without Kyrie, I think that also adds to his legacy. There's a lot of little variables that are happening, but regardless, even without the variables, he'll still probably go into Hall of Fame as a top 10. So long run, short term, I like Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I like that choice too, for sure. For basketball, I was initially going to go with Jokic. We had that discussion before in a previous episode. Right. That compared to other studs, and he won the MVP this past season. And the Nuggets, I feel like, are going to be a strong playoff contender this season as well. And people might be sleeping on Jokic, but I checked his Silver Prism PSA 10 cards, and it's up to 3,500. So I feel like it's getting up there now. Like, people are starting to realize
it's picked up, yeah,
right,
for sure, right? So I changed my mind. I didn't go with Jokic, and previously I was comparing to like guys with like Giannis. His Silver Prisms are like what? 20K,
ridiculous. Yeah,
right? 25K.
They're 5 figures. Yeah.
Yeah. So compared to Giannis, it's cheap, but you know what? It's funny. I'm going with Dame or Beal, just like Giannis, for the exact same reason.
It's the value picks.
Value.
It's the big value picks, man.
You know what? When I play fantasy, it's all about value.
Absolutely, man.
That's how
$1.89. $1.89.
You know, that's how I win my leagues, man. It's like, I remember like playing fantasy baseball, and I chose Bregman in like the 6th or 7th round, which was super value. Like, and then the next year, and I won that league. And the next year, he's being drafted in the first round or second round. I'm like, not choosing Bregman this year.
Yeah. Overpriced.
Exactly. Looking for the value, man. So yeah, for those same reasons that Hyung mentioned. Like, and we talked about Dame too. Like, he doesn't get enough respect in the hobby. I don't know what else he has to do. We talked about that too. Yeah. But sooner or later,
I think it'll correct it. Yeah, it'll correct itself.
Sooner or later, right?
It always corrects itself. The markets always correct itself, right?
I certainly hope so. Like, the points that he puts up and just the way he balls. Oh man, it can't be under 1,000. His PSA 10 Prism
it's like 700 to 800.
Yeah, exactly. 850, and it's from the iconic 2012 Prism set. Like, how is it still under 1,000? You know, like, that's ridiculous to me. So I think that's amazing value. And you mentioned Beal already. He's around half that, about 400,
half that
450.
Price,
I just think he has to get out of Washington. I don't know if that's possible. So
I think that's possible. Yeah, he definitely needs to get out of Washington. Yeah. And I think that's the breath of fresh air. Yeah.
Yeah. So my pick, because of that, I'm going with Dame.
Nice.
Out of those top 10, like, he's a top 10 talent, stud player, yet his prices are so undervalued.
Nice.
In our collective opinion, I'm sure. So, all right. Draft day picks. That was fun. We'll do this I guess we could do the same for baseball when the baseball season starts up after the playoffs, of course.
Right.
Speaking of which, do you guys have a team that you prefer to go all the way this year?
Oh man, it's all my teams are knocked out.
I know.
Right?
I was rooting for the White Sox.
Yeah, I know. I was really rooting for the White Sox. You know, I can't really root for Houston other than Yordan Alvarez. And then, so I guess I'm rooting for Yordan, and a bit of me also is rooting for the Red Sox just because Nick Pivetta, he's a Canadian boy. He's a guy I coached. He came in clutch, and now Boston fans absolutely love him right now. So I'm gonna root for my boy Nick Pivetta on Boston. So I'm hoping that Boston, squeaks out one as well.
Okay.
And I know aren't you a Yankees fan?
Who are you talking to?
Clark. Yeah.
No, come on.
I know. I was like, whoa.
Sorry. I was like, who's the Yankee fan?
That's defamatory right there.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking.
No. I think I'm gonna go for the Braves. They're the team
nice.
I hate the least. So the Braves, Dodgers, that's a boring pick.
Yeah.
And Giants might win it, right? So.
And they're doing it without Acuna. It's incredible.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
That'll be a great feat.
Yeah.
They're gonna be a great team next year, though.
They always find a way to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
John, you got a pick?
No, I do not. I am not cheering for any of those guys. I will just.
It's off-season official.
Yeah, I'm just a casual observer at this point.
Okay, fair enough. All right, with that, then let's move on to our last regular segment we call Pick One. And this week it's the Hot Takes edition, which means we'll all offer 2 hot takes, and then we'll each decide which one is more likely to happen. All right, so who wants to lead off this week's Hot Takes edition of Pick One?
I'll go, I guess. My hot take is going to be Jordan Poole, of Golden State Warriors, has a breakout year / all-star year versus Nickeil Alexander-Walker has a breakout year / all-star year.
I feel like I know what John's going to pick.
Yeah.
So.
I know. I already know what John's
I'll go
gonna
first.
Who's the Canadian?
Yeah, exactly. So we obviously I'm gonna pick Nickeil, no surprise. But I'll talk about Poole. Like I think Jordan Poole had his sort of breakout last year, and people who are investing in Poole or trying to put money into him, I really think this is kind of fool's gold. What you're seeing of Poole in his spurts, I think that is the type of player you're dealing with. I don't think he's the type of guy that is going to consistently drop 20. I think he's going to be sort of like that energy guy off the bench, similar to how the Raptors really enjoyed Norm Powell. I think he's kind of that ilk. So I feel like, and he's not going to really have a regular rotation. Like he's having a regular rotation now, but wait till Clay comes back in January, Christmas time, whenever he's scheduled to come back. I don't see it. So it's aside from the Canadian bias, I think it's easier for me to pick Nickeil because he's starting. People have been pretty high on him regardless, and I think he's going to have a great opportunity to showcase himself this year, especially with so many people who went out of New Orleans. So yeah, easy one for me.
Okay, yeah, I'm going with Nickeil as well because I don't know if this is a fair comp, but I think I recently heard Steph Curry just have super high praise for Jordan Poole, saying like he's going to be, amazing. And this reminded me of when LeBron came out and said Talen Horton-Tucker is going to be
amazing,
the guy,
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, prices for Talen Horton-Tucker spiked.
Yeah.
And then I think it just seems like it's a history repeating itself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like superstar players just giving encouragement to their teammates, really.
Right.
What else are they going to say? They're like, he's okay. Yeah, he's decent. No, they're going to play him up. They're going to give him confidence, right? So I feel like it's kind of similar to me in that sense. And, preseason's preseason, man. You can't put too much weight on preseason performance. Like he would definitely probably win preseason MVP, but, not all the studs are playing during those games, right? So, but Nickeil, I think for the kind of you touched upon it, John. Like I think it's a great spot for him to play with New Orleans, with Zion, with Ingram, and that's a growing team. That's a developing team. So he's going to get his touches, and I think he's going to build upon his past success. So for me, it's easily Nikhil without the Canadian bias.
All right. Yeah, no, I agree with like, especially now that he has his opportunity, Nikhil, that is, it's his kind of, his opportunity, right? His job to lose kind of, and we'll see. But I'm going to actually go the opposite direction because I believe that like this is an opportunity for Jordan Poole where he has to step up right now. And, I believe that's one of the things that is going to kind of put him into that role as, Clay comes back, around February around that date, right? So I think he, like I said, these are hot takes. But I do believe that he is that type of player that can have a breakout season. Normally, I would agree with you guys with Nikhil. I just like to see a little more from Nikhil, especially last year when he had that opportunity, and I feel like it's his season to kind of lose, but I think Jordan Poole has that upside where it could happen. I think it may, just based on his role with Golden State, and I'm gonna go with Jordan Poole on the other side.
All right.
Okay.
I was pretty certain it was going to be a sweep, but wow, he surprised us.
I know. I own 0 Jordan Poole cards. Like that. I do own Nikhil.
Yeah.
But we're talking breakout, like all-star year, right? So I think Nikhil's going to be good, right? Yeah. So it's like I don't think he's going to be an all-star.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Okay, 1v1 hot takes. I got Tiger Woods winning another major before his career is over versus LeBron matching Jordan's 6 rings before his career is over.
How many does LeBron
He's got
have
4.
now?
He needs 2.
4.
I don't think that guy's getting any younger, though.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how old is he?
Yeah, he's going to be playing till he's 55.
34? I don't know what he is. 36?
Man, I would love to see Tiger Woods freaking come back. Like, I'm rooting for that.
Me too.
Like, I just want to pick the other side just because of that. But I think, and you might hate me for this, John, but I think LeBron might do it. He might do it in the next 3 years.
It's possible.
I think if you're doing like hot takes, I think for me it's a no-brainer. LeBron's, I think, gonna win his 2, and he might win one more after that. And I as much as I want Tiger to come back and win another championship, to me it's so tough as is, just mentally and physically too, right? To be able to come back to what he had to overcome, and he's not 25 years old anymore, right? So for him, I see a total change even in his demeanor of how he sees or views life now, right? It's not as serious as it was before. So I'd love to see it, but I think more likely you're going to see LeBron win those 2 championship rings.
Nice.
Yeah, it's an easy one for me, especially knowing my NBA championship pick for this season being the Lakers.
There's one more only, right?
There's 5 right there, and then he just got to win one more, and I just looked his age up. He's 36. Okay, he's getting up there, but at least 39, 3 years, and with the team that he's built and the power that he has to build a team, like he has the power to like essentially choose which guys he wants to play with. And as he grows up, and he's getting smarter too. Like he plays in a way that maximizes his talent at his age, right. and then he complements it with different role players. So LeBron's smart enough to know what to do to take his team to championship level. So LeBron's, I think that's more likely to happen to match the 6, which will be incredible, and then the GOAT discussion will really ramp up. Then we can talk.
Then we can talk.
Dear Lord.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought I could sway you guys. Okay, well, I mean, when you look at Vegas odds, I'm sure it's no question the LeBron side is going to have the heavy favorites because you got the Lakers, and then on the flip side, a lot of people think that Tiger may not even come back to play golf at all. There's probably pretty high odds that is also a situation, right? So it's pretty easy. I think LeBron is the easy pick, but I'm going to say this, I'm going with Tiger because I think LeBron doesn't have enough time on his side to get those 2 rings. That's number one. I think Tiger will come back. I'm very confident he will come back. Whether he wins a major or not, that's going to be difficult, but he's got time on his hands. He's got another 10 years playing at a high level, assuming he comes back at a decent health. And sorry, Clark, but I think the Lakers are overrated, man. I have zero faith that Russell Westbrook is the right piece in a winning formula in any organization. I think they are dead wrong to go after Russell Westbrook. I could be completely wrong, but I love Anthony Davis, and I think LeBron's a GOAT. But other than that, I don't think they have it. I don't think they have the depth. I don't think they have the longevity to last. And I think they're very overrated. And I think they're not going to go to the finals. And I think they're going to be a mid to early knockout again. And it's going to be from here on in, I think it's going to be really, really hard. Whether, most people think, Lakers are going to run to another 2 championships. I actually think it's going to be really hard. I think LeBron is going to close out his career with 4 championships. So I'm not trying to be a hater, but I don't think Russell Westbrook is the right piece.
Such a hater. Hey, you know what? We also know what you said about Giannis, okay? So
and then that was right before the championship too. It's just he heard you. He heard you. Man. LeBron heard you.
LeBron's gonna have his best season this year.
Yeah.
I'm the Charles Barkley of this podcast. All right.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so I'll close it off with my hot takes for the Pick One segment. The first one is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. repeats this season next year. So let's make it even harder. He's going to win the Triple Crown next year. It's a hot take. Or Shohei Ohtani is going to repeat this season, i.e. have amazing pitching, elite pitching stats, along with his elite batting stats, 40-plus homers. Yeah, everything he's done this year. So what do you think is more likely to happen?
I think you just changed it because my answer was Vladdy. I think he's gonna repeat his season. No doubt for me. He can hit. He can hit for power. He's a disciplined hitter, and he's 22 years old. So I think his best years are still ahead of him. And I believe he's a type of hitter that's going to be one of the best right-handed hitters that the game has ever seen, right? So, but that was before you said Triple Crown.
You know why? Because I thought it would be too easy.
Right. That, so. And to me, probably Triple Crown is one of the toughest feats in the major leagues. Yeah, so hard. Yeah, there's so many different factors. And he was
close though.
He was close, but that just shows you he was off by 10 RBIs by the end of it or whatever it was. But that just shows you, there's people Salvador Perez, just monster seasons, right? Yeah. So I think in the American League, it's a very, very tough thing to do to win the Triple Crown. But I do believe. On the flip side, that Ohtani probably will be similar to what he was this year, I believe that he's going to, probably be, probably 9-2 again or, 7-4 or whatever it is, with a 2.9 to 3.5 ERA, and he probably hits 35 to 40 home runs, and yeah, he's just good, right? So I think more likely that's to happen than the Triple Crown. But if it was on the flip side, you can't take the MVP away from Vladdy this year and then, take that next year as well. So I'm going to say, in this instance, it's going to be Shohei more likely to do what he did again.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Easy one for me. I'm also picking Shohei. Even if we were talking about who we think will be the MVP next year. So if Vladdy's going to be the MVP or Shohei,
Right.
it's really not going to take much for Shohei to be the MVP. Like, I think for him to go, like Young said, like 9-4 with a 3.10 ERA with like 170 strikeouts, I think he's probably going to do that. And then on the flip side, if he ends up hitting 90 plus 100 RBIs with 30 home runs and 30 steals, I mean, it's very achievable for Shohei, and that's like easily MVP conversation without a doubt over anybody, short of a triple crown by Vladdy, right? So I think Shohei repeating, I mean, you do have the injury factor. I think Shohei may not complete a full season of pitching next year. I'm a little bit scared of that, but I'm going to put my betting money that Shohei will be the repeater next year.
Okay. That's interesting because, yeah, I thought, well, before I change it up right at the spot, it would have been a Vladdy sweep, right?
It would have been a Vladdy sweep, I think.
But you know what? I'm going with Vladdy. I know how hard it is to get a triple crown. We all know that. But you said it right at the end, John. Like, I am afraid Shohei won't have those pitching stats next year. I think injury is going to be a factor. You know, like even going into this season, I took a gamble on Shohei when I bought his card, thinking that he's recovered in the offseason and he could put it together if everything breaks right. And I think it's going to be that scenario every year. Everything has to break right for him to perform at this elite historic level, i.e. pitching well throughout the season and batting well, like essentially playing all his games. Right. And I don't know, like I'm just scared of his health. So so that's why I think it's more like I think Shohei is less likely to repeat because of his injury past, and therefore by default Vladdy's more likely to win the Triple Crown.
Right.
Very fair. Very fair.
All right, no sweeps this. I thought it would be just kind of going over the 1v1s before in our pre-show. I'm like, oh, these might all be sweeps.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, those were tough ones when we actually thought it out. Awesome. All right, that wraps up this episode. It's another fun episode, and big time thanks for all our listeners. It's been an awesome first 20 episodes. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Cards to the Moon to get weekly updates on every new episode that we publish each Tuesday. All right, thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.